I'm pretty good. Okay.
All right, that being said, we will call to order today's session. It's a little after, I'll say it's 4:02. Starting off, did everybody get a chance to read the minutes from last meeting? And are there any comments that anyone wants to bring up at this point? Hearing none, we'll consider the minutes from November 20th passed. The first agenda item is the progress update.
Okay, we wanted to let the campus committee know that there is a survey for the.
Can somebody please, sorry, go open the front door. There's somebody outside trying to get in. Thank you. Sorry, Nate.
No problem. We have a survey that's going to go live fairly soon for the community center proposal, and it's asking about 7 questions as to where they think a community center should be in the community, among some other things. Vague questions: what kind of programming, services, facility needs they have. So we encourage all of you to take that survey and please get the word out on it, because I know the city has a lot of avenues. We have the Middleton Times Tribune. There's the website, Facebook. But if there's anything else, any other social media avenues or that you think would help, please let us know, and we'll work on getting it out to as many people as we can. This is a public survey, so we want a high amount of people taking this.
Where do you find it? Where do you find it?
There's a website, and we will supply that.
What's the website? You got a little more specific than.
Yeah, no, we will give the printed site out. Do we have, we have the link.
You can email it out to the committee.
Pardon?
We will email it out to the committee.
Okay, thank you.
And is this on the city? I know we have a page for this group. Will it be added to that as well?
Yes, the survey was only just finalized this morning.
Okay,
And so
it's really
that's
new.
why we, right now, our Parks and Recreation Director is working with our communications manager to get a press release together. And once we have the link and everything up and running, we'll share it with the committee, and we'll put out the news release, and we'll also put it out on Notify Me, and we will list it on the Community Campus Committee website as well.
That's great. Thanks.
Is this being proposed as a possibility and not a done deal? I assume having the community center. I'm just wondering about sensitivities of privately owned clubs.
Right. Yeah, this is to get a feel out there for where people are looking at. This is more of a location survey to see where it might be best located in the city.
And this is just strictly for the community center,
Just the
not for
community
any of the
center.
other things
Nothing to
we've been
do
talking
with
about.
the senior center, library, or city hall. Other than that, last month when we met, I think it was December 18th, we had some questions. So hopefully at the end of this session, we can go through some of those. And if we can't, we'll make sure to provide updates on those questions that were asked last time.
Sounds good.
Yeah. We just want to get into the meat of the day here with you guys, because there's a lot to go through.
Okay. Is that it for the progress then?
That's
you're
it for the
feeling?
progress
Okay.
update.
Any questions from any of the committee members about what Nate mentioned there? Otherwise, I think we can jump into agenda number 2, the updates from the stakeholder meetings.
We have gone through the stakeholder meetings with the different, senior center, city hall, library, community center. And we have all that information in detailed spreadsheets that informs the sizes of the pieces that we're working with. But we're still in the refinement period, because we generate those spreadsheets and then we turn them over to the city. and, you know, the different stakeholders to just review it to make sure we have it right. So that's the process that we're in right now. So we will have some executive summaries, you know, in the future that we can share with everybody. So we are working on that moving forward. So we're just in a refinement period. We have all the areas we need. So
Did, just in general, I know nothing finalized. Is it a lot more than what we were looking at a few years ago, pre-COVID, or is it fairly
but that's a really good question
close to
because,
the
and
same?
certainly we
or-
can discuss more of this later. A lot has changed during COVID.
Right?
For example, you know, the senior center has seen an uptick, certainly in their usage and, you know, the population that's using their services. You know, one item that comes to mind was an adult day center. There's a need for that in the community. So that's something that's new, but it certainly fits within the areas that we were working with before. We had some staff in our library specialists met with Jocelyn and her staff to talk about the library program and, you know, really what are trends and what are comparatives to other communities based on population and collections and holdings. And that square footage has in fact ticked down some. So that's really the two big changes that we have seen.
Just curious, what is an adult day center? I don't know that
Well,
I've-
just in summary, real quick, and Tammy's behind me. If she wants to chime in, she can correct me. It's basically, in short, say, you know, I'm a care provider for one of my parents and I can't take care of them during the day. There's a facility, and it's interesting because it's separately licensed from the senior center. So you can bring your parent there and they can have activities and engagement, and even meals during the day. They would have separate restroom facilities and bathing facilities and an activity room. So it's that opportunity for engagement in that sense.
Okay, thanks. Anything else? Any other big picture things that you can think of that came from the stakeholder meetings that you wanted to share?
No, I think that
All right.
summarizes it all.
Sounds good. Any questions from anybody regarding those meetings that have heard? This far? Yeah,
I
go ahead.
guess I'm assuming you're also taking into consideration like the population trends and the number of people that are retiring every year and our aging population here in Wisconsin and then clearly in Middleton as a whole to future plan for like the senior center piece of it.
Absolutely. Right. And, you know, this is a snapshot in time. So, and this is the master plan. So we're just trying to identify from a very high level, what are the anticipated needs? Then if there is a project in the future, then there would be more detailed analysis with the population growth and try and fine tune those areas. And really it's about providing the flexibility to grow into the programs that you might need in the future. But yes, that is a consideration.
Question.
Yeah.
Is the possibility of a senior daycare facility mentioned in the survey at all?
No,
No, the survey is strictly for a community center.
All right. Any other questions from the group? All right. With that said, I think we can jump into number 3, the workshop. See that you guys prepared some blocks for us.
So just really quickly, because all of our committee members are physically here, we don't have any committee members that are remote. I think what we had discussed is that we're going to have the committee members participate in the activity instead of splitting you into 3 separate groups and doing them simultaneous. We're going to just move from 1, 2, 3. And Nate is going to have his laptop set up here so that Bob from the consultant team can see what the committee members are discussing. And then Daphne is running the camera for now and hopefully can help capture the conversation for any remote viewers. And so we can post it to the city's YouTube. So I think that's how we'll do it. If that works okay for all the committee members, the staff will kind of hang back and our staff will also be here to take photos and help document the discussion.
Sounds good. Thanks.
All right, if you all want to join us at the table one here. Feel free to stand or sit. They bring more chairs up if people want to all sit.
Should we move this other microphone over there too, just so we make sure we can? Oh, you turned it off? Okay. Yeah, let's just, that way we can try to post this online and somebody can make sense of it.
Go here.
Okay.
Not do that.
Oh, sure, okay. I thought just doing. Okay, so what we've done, there's 3 differentiated options in the RFP. One was looking at the existing buildings and how can they be renovated. So again, that's something that we've gone through and you've seen the information on the MEP upgrades. So we're working on the architectural portion of that right now, so that can dovetail together. Again, we're reviewing that with city staff. It will be, in the future, we'll share out that so you have that bucket identified. The second is to look at the existing buildings and then identify opportunities for additions. Okay, so that's the second one. So what you have before you is just a real quick scale model of the pieces downtown, senior center, city hall, and library. And I put the square footages on here because, as you can imagine, with the increase in staff needed for the programs and the change in the community, there's a need for additional space. So for example, the library or the senior center is at 23,000 square feet right now. Then in the future, there's a need for 35,000 square feet, right? So this represents the area that's needed in addition to this, right? So then that gets you all the space. And likewise for City Hall and the library, right? So the library right now, that area is down to about 82,000 square feet. So those yellow blocks represent what is needed in addition to the library square footage. Okay, and then likewise, the same is for City Hall. So what we're interested to have the community campus do is organize these blocks on the sites, for a number of stories, how tall it is. Each one of these blocks is 1 story, okay? So we're just interested to have you come up with some ideas or thoughts about how to configure these additions on these buildings, and we'll take photographs of them. And if we come up with a solution, then we'll go away, tonight and tomorrow, we'll generate a diagram or 2, and then we'll come back and share that with you tomorrow. This is what we heard. Is this an option we can move forward with?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So I'm assuming that none of the structure in any of the existing buildings can support additional floor on top.
City Hall, no. Senior Center, actually, no.
Okay,
So I thought
so
just-
building
Yeah.
up is out of the question.
No, no,
On
no.
top of what is
Okay.
existing without major residential.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right, so that is part of a challenge, and then as you all well know with the senior center, there's many different levels in the building, so wayfinding for folks can be a challenge. Downstairs, it's many open rooms that are just sort of there and you meander through, so it can become disruptive if there's an exercise class or there's a wet crack going on. Those are all challenges with this existing building, but that's not to say if that was an option, that we couldn't look at creative ways to address that.
No, this existing buildings currently have a basement, so
Yes,
like we could. Even though it's a stack of 2, it would really only be 1 story building. Because really all down. Maybe not City Hall, because
Yeah.
City Hall's basement is pretty dire right now, but
Right.
maybe.
right. And that's something we're addressing in the renovation of that building, if, but again, we'll hold that for the next phase when we see those brackets. Really, we just want you to focus on the additions to the buildings. And then just think, if there's an addition, there still would be a rather significant renovation of this building if you were to add on to it.
Is the library the largest of all of them then? It's like,
The area, yes, it is.
okay.
Did you ever look at an option to purchase some land, additional land downtown?
Not in the scope of this.
I mean, there's just, we got a big issue here is just the size of the properties, Gotta add on.
And if you add on, it's going out, not up, right?
It can't go up.
Can't go up. So
Could you,
Oh,
so,
you feel free, you can move the blocks around, and these lines, the red means that that's the property line, and that blue, that's called a setback. That means the building has to be that far away from the property line.
can you tell me the total square footage for the library needed?
The total of the library is about 82,000 square feet, so that addition you have your hand on is about 42,000 square feet.
Okay.
And
I was
again,
like, why not just the library and build like a little walkway
There you go.
between the two?
those are all things,
There you go.
and that's why we want you to just feel free, take these pieces.
But
and
there's
move them
still not
around.
enough space, but yeah.
And we're assuming in this particular exercise that we're keeping all three of these locations.
That's correct.
And is there another
There's-
exercise?
This
Okay.
is construction over here.
Right,
Yeah.
the other one is new
Yeah.
construction, that's a
Okay.
little bigger, we're gonna save that one for the end of the day, because
Got it.
that I think is gonna be more.
It looks like.
And this
a
parking lot
game.
Here, isn't
You
included
put
in
Things
this?
up.
This is it, but you know
Grab
what's-
all you can get while you
What's
got it.
really interesting about this is because we have the heights of the buildings surrounding.
There is parking, but it's not, I don't think. Erica was asking about the parking.
Was that not included in this
No,
area?
it's not anymore. It was the last
Okay.
time,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, so it's
The
crazy.
observation, yeah, they're parking across the tracks.
So in this scenario, we don't have to consider the parking?
You know, I think move the blocks around and then the parking will certainly be part of the discussion, but I think that can come next. I don't want you to cloud your thinking or, you know, constrict your ideas by worrying about parking now, but that is something I'd like to consider.
are there any limits in going down, like to put parking underneath?
You certainly can. And again, that's something we'll have to discuss further, you know, with all of you and the city staff, because, you know, going down is expensive.
So I think in this option, we can't put it on top.
Unless we're assuming that she's going down.
Me?
Yeah.
I'm saying this is now the library with a walkway, all of this.
Oh, library with a walkway.
You know what
Okay.
I'm saying?
Sure.
Uh-huh.
So there's like.
So there's like
Across the
a,
street.
it goes over.
Superstructure. Sorry, I'm just,
Yeah.
so.
I'm just playing around
No,
because
no, totally.
I like to play with blocks.
But we're not allowed to go up, right? So.
Not in the library. City Hall would be a challenge and the senior center is a. So that's just because. you've seen
This
it.
would be new and this could
But
go
if
up.
these are new, you could go up
Yeah.
here.
Yeah,
So.
so like this
Yeah.
could go up.
So this can go up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep, you're right on.
All right.
Oh, I see.
Sure.
Cool. Yeah, so this could go up.
Absolutely. And you can certainly take up some of the parking space too. Don't feel constricted that you have to stay. you know.
If you're gonna build new on the parking area, you certainly could more easily go down first there, right? And then
We
go on
can't
top
go
and
up here, right?
I wouldn't go up on top of this building.
Yeah.
Structurally, it's be challenging, but you can certainly go up next to it.
What do you mean, you mean over
Right, where I'm
Yeah,
at.
right, like
Yeah.
that's a two-story building.
Yeah.
Because each one of these is a floor.
Or you
Yeah.
could say that's a one-story building.
Yeah.
Yes,
Mhm.
exactly.
Yeah.
In your scenario, City Hall is still under here.
No, City Halls would be a
City
new
Hall,
building
yeah.
or something. You know what I'm saying? I was just
Yeah.
looking at the two bigger structures since the library needs the most space. And then, you know, connecting it somehow, but feel free to whoosh and do something else with it. And then City Hall, you know, I guess,
Yes, a couple of thoughts were, so if this is a one-story building with a basement, if we did the same, so we're not adding a third store, like just keep it the same levels, right? So we
One
can
story.
access stair, use the existing stairs to get over here. I know there's that, I'll call it an atrium, but that double height space that we have to tie back into that ramp.
Mhm.
Maybe if we rotate them, we can get a single bar. Can't
I'd hate to
rotate
see
that
you
one, but
I hate to see you guys digging in because that's a stone foundation. They ran into that same problem.
Yeah.
Swab and sports store, the thing caved in on.
Right,
Oh, they built a new one. Yeah,
yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah,
And that's what-
That's all.
That's
stone
what's under
foundation.
there.
That's why I never remember that.
Right there.
Yeah.
sorry.
That's
So
where
if you're gonna do that, you're gonna do that, you're gonna
traditions
have to almost
Yep.
cut down some of
Mustard.
this stuff.
Yep,
get
yep,
out of
yep,
it.
yep,
That's the
yep,
fountain.
yep,
And then
okay,
this is.
thank you.
so the thought is here, Paula.
Yep,
can
Hubbard Avenue, okay, thanks.
we cut that in half so we could have a.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a perfect exact.
You can play with the- you can play with the blocks too.
Yeah, I agree.
But then you could get a straight bill.
Yeah, you're just saying, you know, a solid bar, 2 stories, you know, a little bit thicker, kind of staying within that. The parameters, you know, that was set in that building.
Yeah, but
A lower
yeah, I think
level,
just
okay.
lower level and first floor, not a.
I think
Take it
you
off.
can stay on one side and go out.
Well, bring down,
City Hall do this then.
and then it's,
Right.
keeps
Yep.
it all together.
I think that's really the only open space. So if,
Yeah.
It is, and that's a good point. You know, when you have the city hall space, you can certainly do a lower level. And if there's a need for daylight, you know, we can certainly get aerial wells down to get to those lower levels. And that's very important for people working
Yes.
in the spaces.
I would just consider the lack of parking, like once we start taking that and how that will affect the businesses downtown.
Unless we,
I mean, it's already something that is talked about quite a bit.
Well, that's why the
so-
question came up, can you put
Yeah.
parking under a building? And you certainly can. And that's just part of the construction project. It gets more expensive, as you can imagine, the deeper you go.
Mm.
The first floor, I mean, there's a premium, it's not insurmountable, we do it a lot under the multi-family residential.
Yeah.
Unless you run into the
yeah.
problem that T-wall did, you get water down there and you're pumping continuously.
Right, dewatering, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I
and do
don't
we
get
have to-
into dewatering.
do we have to respect this property line in front?
Don't worry about that, Will, you know, we just want the big
So-
ideas and
so
we'll
we
worry about
could-
the property lines.
Potentially these could be built out.
You're not tearing
This way.
down my rolling.
Well, we can't build beyond this blue line.
Right, but in the
Put
street
a little atrium in there,
area,
Justin.
Right.
Whatever green space.
could the buildings come out further this way?
You know, they could, and I think that's a discussion with the city, because this right now, this is all zoned institutional, and zoning means different parts of the city are zoned a certain way, whether it's education or business or residential. And then that sets up a certain rules that we have to follow for height, density, setbacks from your neighbors, and that's what this represents.
just wondered if we could get a little one-story connection, have a couple underground layers of underground parking, entrance, exit. Still somehow connect back to the library. Maybe it's the whole front, right? So you come in and out here to go under. And then you build up the library. Is it, so 2 stories creates a bathtub? Is that where the water table's at? Two stories.
You know,
underground?
geologically, I don't want to give you an answer, because for example, in the building I'm in downtown, the water table goes super high, right? We're right off of State Street. We had to dewater and do all kinds of stuff. There's a project right across the street, bone dry. It's just all sand, so I don't want to make a comment, you know, where we are geologically,
Sure.
around here, but there's always, something to consider.
Yeah,
We
because
can
that would
work on it.
definitely be.
Could the,
Go for it.
Go for it. I'm done.
could the parking stay? And
Oh, stills.
we build like this?
Yeah, you build over, sure.
I would recommend if we do that, still keeping front facing facade
Yeah,
on the front. so you're
yeah,
not
so you'd
just-
have like this
Right, yeah,
and parking here
yeah,
and then,
that goes over it. And maybe that's this.
and then there's
connection,
like
right?
some kind of connection.
Yeah, maybe this is connection in lobby that.
Yeah.
Separates 2 lanes.
I'm actually literally just thinking of the Janesville Library and it kind of like that.
So in that case, if it's kind of parking underneath.
Mhm.
How many stories do you get to those? Library.
And I think that
Because it
A
looks
lot
like
of
we're
s-
probably maybe it's a little deeper, so maybe it's 3 stories. To get
I
that.
do think there are some people, some of the comments from the senior residents, they're not really
We're not,
comfortable
we're
with
not, we're not happy with
underground.
underground parking.
So would this surface work for you? It's just like it's like a carport. It's like, it's still,
Building over.
you're building over the parking lot. You know what I mean? You're still coming in,
It's surface parking.
that's
with
still the
buildings on
same,
top.
and we're just gonna put,
Yeah, but how much parking you gonna get out of that?
I would. Oh, sort of the same.
Well, you won't, because you'll lose this one and you'll lose that one.
I don't know if you'd lose this
You
one.
could have just exterior columns. I mean, you could do it so everything's raised. The only issue that I see with that is tying in with the existing library, and I
Mhm.
feel like you want to you don't want to feel like two separate spaces. You want
Yeah.
probably one entrance that
Okay, I made a
services
mess.
all of it.
No, that's good.
So
But
what does
that's a
do?
good point.
If I could push a little bit, what does that do to building heights if we're doing grade, you know? Yeah, so.
Well, currently in this area, in institutional, you're allowed 4 stories or 55 feet. And again, you can always, ask for a variance, for height variances, depending on certain hardships of the site. But again, you know, we don't want to just, certainly something to be aware of. But we don't want you to tamp down your creative thinking with this exercise.
Like in my mind, this site is the most height sensitive just due to the neighbors around them, whereas, you know, you're getting back into here, the closest single family kids are either across the railroad.
What's
across
the
the
option,
street.
city buying these two properties? The old post office and the Reich Agency.
Abby would probably know the answer to that.
What's the question?
Where the
Two buildings behind.
Chamber.
chamber used to be, those two
These two
buildings.
buildings.
Mhm.
I've been asked, what are the odds of the city owning them?
Highly unlikely. The current owner has 3 in a row and has renovated them, and I highly doubt.
Is it the dentist office or what used to be the dentist office as well?
There's a single family home.
The home and
There's
then-
the former chamber, now Edward Jones, and he's building a coffee shop in the back. And then, yes, Assemblage Architects.
On Elmwood.
Yep.
But That's
Yeah.
different than
Yeah, that's this.
these.
That is this.
It
And then
is,
that's
okay.
the single
That's
family
what- okay.
home that he.
There was
also-
always a
they
single
also-
family home there. That was the old post office. And that was
Right.
Reich
The old,
Agency.
okay, I was going to where the post office is.
Abby, what
That's a
about
great, that's a good thought.
is Good Fight on
That's a
that?
great thought.
Yes,
Well,
Food Fight
It's
owns
an
Hubbard
option, 'cause
Diner.
we're-
Yeah.
regardless of what we're gonna do, we're still fighting the square basal footage of the outline of all the city properties downtown. So then the option is going up. And underground parking, you know, like I say, for the seniors, we're not too happy with that. It's just for security and it's difficult to park, you know, at night and it's dark in there, you know, some of these people don't have, their driving skills have dropped a little bit.
If it is underground, will the street parking go away?
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, because there was that plaza idea, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's do 5 more minutes here
Okay.
and then we'll shift over. So
Okay.
let's get last thoughts.
But
on this.
possibly this could stay in this scenario. Right? The parking. On the
Yeah,
street,
yeah.
in this scenario.
Sure, and certainly if you add on to the senior center, we could maintain some parking in that area as well.
Yeah.
In between the two buildings.
We would have to maintain it. I mean, that'd be all the parking there would be for the senior center.
Yeah, and they're grumbling
And
now, there's not enough.
That's right. I
parking.
mean, you know, these are older people. They've got to be able to be close to the building.
Now, do you see, the senior center, filling up that parking during the day? Because there's also other patrons that are downtown that are parking in this lot.
To go to the restaurants.
Mhm.
They are, but where else are they gonna park? I mean, if you want to go to Hubbard, you've got to park someplace. And, you know, it depends on what time of the day, because when classes are being held at the senior center, when other activities are there, it's quite often the seniors that are
Mhm.
using that.
And we're trying to increase some of the parking during the daytime for seniors only.
Yes.
Like they have in some of the grocery stores.
Striping it, sure.
Yes.
Striping it for
Yeah.
seniors only, but that's just a small spot. I don't, like I know for the library, I go past there sometimes and that parking lot's plumb full too.
Yeah.
And people ain't really going down to the diner, they're going into the library. But the other hand, nobody parks on the other side of the railroad tracks.
Why is that off the table for this exercise?
That's just not part of the scope of this project.
Okay,
So
we cannot go back.
No, to build over there. No.
Okay.
Everything is really within these red lines.
Plus then you're gonna fight with railroad.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes,
And that
yeah.
will never go.
I think Ken just nailed it on the head. The issue is the lack of space that we have in our downtown. And the issue with our current buildings, where they're all one-story buildings, and that the density of that is just so low that adding the square footage that we need takes away all the green space or all the parking,
Yeah.
or, there's just, it's.
So is this exercise to make us realize that?
Well, I think this is really going through, there's certainly, we can always go back and draw things and share it with you, but I think, we think there's more power into having all of you talk about it right here three-dimensionally.
Yeah.
And there's certainly opportunities and challenges with this one. And then you'll see is when we get, this is a good warm up, because then the next one is a little bit different, can of worms. As you can imagine.
Let's see the next word.
So-
Because this is frustrating.
Before-
I don't want to jump, so we have a couple of
Few
ideas.
words.
It sounds like, okay, first starting with the senior center, there's more interest in doing a two-story addition, but one level is below ground. And then we connect at the first level. Right? Or are you thinking 2 stories above ground?
Well, the thing is, we gotta have parking there because we do Meals on Wheels, and these
Mhm.
people have to park close, plus there's deliveries for the meals.
Mhm.
And if you have
Right.
underground parking, you really can't do some of that.
Oh, the building.
The
it's a
building
tie-in
below
with
ground.
the lower level of the existing under parking.
But
Sorry, I
he
was-
did bring up, and that foundation right there, if you check that out, it's just like it was over at the Mustard Museum.
Sure. Well, then there's things you can do. If you are adding on, you can do something like this, right? Where you stay away from that corner and you just do your addition back here.
It's a whole wall. It's almost a wall across there.
Mhm.
That used to be. Just,
Well, knowing that there's issues,
yeah,
if this were selected, then, the next phase, when there's a contractor on board, you talk about how you can build a wall kind of close to that wall and then connect back through the old existing and shore it up and underpin foundations and things like that.
And I'm assuming any of these scenarios, like, there's going to be remodeling and upgrading
Correct.
of the existing building.
Yeah,
So,
like the existing library.
It could be completely reswizzled to
It could.
a
The
different.
interior of this.
Yeah.
Got it and redone.
Right, Jocelyn just went through additions, and renovations in there, but it really didn't identify, IT and some of the other needs that they have.
Oh, yeah.
Interior, so there's still, more work that could be done.
So between this and there, I mean, I know we're not, this isn't the scope, but there's also like a hybrid, just thinking through it, right? Like, what if, like, in my mind, this building is past its prime. This building, it's just not as functional with ups and downs. This building may have some good bones and could be possibly something else, like, so City Hall 22 plus, what was the total of this?
That's about 6,000 square foot addition, so it's
Like 28,
City Hall, yep, 28, there you go.
like if that became that, or, yeah, I think the senior center would be too big or something, right?
Mhm.
And now you have a big block. Just another thought of, so repurposing all 3 of them.
You're jumping ahead.
Sorry.
That's okay, but it's good to think about that because this is a good warm up, because that's certainly something on the next one that we'll have to talk about. So we've got the 1-story, the 2-story additions, 1-story below grade. And then here there was a couple of options. One was a 1-story connector with a building that had sort of a green courtyard. The other, what could you do with building above parking to maintain some of that surface parking for seniors? And certainly when we get to the plaza design, there's ways that we can address a safe pedestrian connection. And then again, maintaining as much parking as we can here. Was that kind of like this high level summary of the two options? Okay.
Could
Well,
you,
they seem antsy to get to the construction.
Well, no, we can go to the streetscape. It's up to however you want to do it, because that one could take some time.
Yeah.
I think if you want to do this one, that's fine, or we can always come back to it after they go to the streetscape.
Let's do the streetscape.
Yeah, let's do the streetscape.
All right, so these were 3 concepts that we presented.
More than double the
Previous
size of the existing library.
Right? Causes, so this is
Where
just
did you
looking
say
at
it was
cover
going
itself.
This
Uh,
is 33, so 33 is what so this is
Okay.
about 48,000.
Sorry, I'm Molly.
But again, in any case, this is.
I live in the streetscape realm.
So.
I get excited. I want to introduce myself, so. So this first concept is a plaza street, and it's really creating,
Leaving an
we're
education
looking at
spaces
creating a
here.
unified streetscape design to reinforce the civic
So I was taking a really
civic
conservative approach
campus
here.
identity.
And then even, you know, getting
and
that
we are
90%
taking
footage down.
walkways,
Okay.
and the street with permeable pavers, to kind of get to, support your sustainability measures. Providing on-street parking, bike parking, and then an update to site permissions.
So as far as sidewalks, essentially it's.
Yeah, so, probably looking at 11 or 12-foot travel lanes, 8-foot parking, and then, yes. Everything. That's really cool. Yeah, so. Yeah, so these are two examples, using the pavers, and really it's just using different pavers to delineate space and, parking stalls. But everything, the idea is everything could be on the same level. So we could close down the ends, and then that whole plaza space could be used for civic functions. So we'll call that concept 1, or the plaza street. Concept 2 is a lunar or drivable plaza. So it really, in my mind, it's a little bit of an obstacle course, and really works to slow down car traffic, so that it's much more pedestrian friendly, and creates kind of these little nooks where you could gather, and be protected. So, still drivable, and parkable, but a little, more focused on kind of creating, like smaller spaces, social gathering spaces.
When you go with these designs, you might want to run that fast bicycle, pedestrian transit.
Sure.
Because these are some of the same issues that fight slowing down traffic and pedestrian process.
Yeah.
You might want to bring that up. Something I was on that committee, that was a long-standing issue. So, and the other thing with the pavers is they're kind of nice, but they're slippery as heck when they get wet.
Sure.
It might be a different design on them, more grid on them or
Yeah,
something.
it could be surface treatable.
But like I say, the input from the pedestrian bicycle committee would be nice.
I would think that these would make them happy.
I think it would too, but I think you'd want to run them past it, I mean.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
There are a lot of bikers on that.
They're not designing in a vacuum, so.
Yeah, this first one just kind of reminds me a little bit about what's the name of the street, just one over, like Terrace, there we go, like how it has similar traits.
Yeah.
But I think it would be nice to have some continuity, not just like this little block section, but traits that are.
Like on terrace.
Yeah.
Right, because that was
Seemed-
kind of the idea.
right.
And then, that's one of our questions for you is how far to take this streetscape? Is it just in front of the buildings? Is it all the way to furniture? Is it?
But like if you're talking about closing it down, I feel like if you, like, you're not just gonna close down this portion, you can close down all the way down that. Like we have the mustard fest.
I bet it will come down to money.
Oh, yeah.
I bet,
Yes.
I
Always
bet if we
does.
have to, we start with this much,
Right.
and then we
Oh,
get
yeah.
to the other one in another phase.
The third concept is what we're calling the green crescent. And it's reconfiguring the street so that there's a curve in it, that tends to slow traffic, again, another traffic calming method. But also brings in an opportunity to create some rain gardens and, stormwater infiltration. In addition to using permeable pavers out there. Would insert some more green into the space, more stormwater. So.
Does that take away the street
parking?
It may, and we may need to focus on, talk about where we insert parallel parking. Additional on streets again.
Do you feel like one or another promotes more socialization and like hanging out types of an atmosphere, or would they all kind of? Like, my eye goes to this and I'm like, oh, this would be awesome for people to like hang out and like pop in to a store, go shopping, and then hang out again, and then we go get a cocktail, something, you know what I mean, like spend more time in the area, but maybe it's just a photo. So that would be available in it.
Yeah, and it's kind of, it's also how the building interacts with that, which is what kind of bring my props is. How do we design the building so that we do create those social spaces, opportunities for the community to gather, that isn't car-centric.
But that one's not car centric. It's really for the pedestrian. This is very. It's our downtown plus. Let's get that in parking that we need. We're gonna have rankings. Concept, it's cool, but. It might cause car accidents.
Versus pedestrians.
Right.
Oh, the
Getting
other
up
issue,
from the table. and-
the other issue is snow plowing, if we ever have any snow in the country anymore. How do those pavers handle when you plow snow on them?
The plows generally, the recommendation is that you have a rubber, that you float the plow. And then there's a rubber, attachment at the bottom slightly. Oh, there you go, what they say.
So
Did
that's
they
an
say
interesting
anything in
less
addition to that?
salt.
Yeah. So, just to challenge you all, we do have dots for you to vote on your favorite, streetscape option, and maybe this is certainly before we leave today, you can place a dot. There are also, Post-its and pens, if you have specific comments to, each of them.
Positive or negative?
Positive or negative, we can take it all. So with that, do we want to switch to the?
You don't want them to do their dots right now, it's
Oh.
in their brains?
Yeah. Do you
Make
want
any
to?
comments you want right now? We'll take the
Yeah,
next
let's-
5 minutes.
yeah.
and-
Yeah.
Thank you. Yep, share the dots around.
Everyone should turn around so they can see what I mean.
No.
Would you like a dot?
I like this.
You get to vote.
Post-its.
So this concept. Gutter and drainage system. How does the concept?
Good question. So it right through.
So the sidewalk is.
Is there still a curb?
The curb is just extended.
It's just the way that
Is it-
the SketchUp.
Is it zero edge or?
So it could be zero edge and then
You do that
where you
here.
see the wire, yep, so that could be a ribbon curve, so it's more gentle, so it can. With also with the vertical papers.
Yeah, we're just kind of trying to be calm.
Yeah, I go sure.
Right now, we already. Right. We already kind of have an established downtown. Like, under system. To that. This is these trees, I don't know if we.
I love them.
Well, that they do not, they don't seem to urban. They seem like.
It's a style.
Very urban, it's like Paris, man.
Maybe if I'm looking at, maybe if I'm looking this, it doesn't do it, but maybe if I'm looking at that, okay.
Falls out your lawn order.
Yes.
They're columnar.
No, they're correct, like
They turn bright red. It's a different signature, right?
Something else, like, I like the trees.
So are there, so if we're talking about, I would encourage you to think about building height, you know, in the next exercise,
That's
if we're
true.
talking about building heights, what does the building height do to each one of these steps, and how does the building relationship to these steps change? You're building up to zero lot line, or the setback, or, that kind of changes. I already fixed it. You did? Okay. Who else wants to post it? Good.
Inspiration photo.
That's cheating.
Less traffic. Models of this, I know there's a lot of your.
That's a. Yeah. Less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just how, I know we're hopefully that.
Even if we're just talking about.
Is there, that's.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think just. That's. These buildings will go on. That's about.
Is it, Boulders Brook?
That's right, it actually.
I think it's two emergency vehicles, yes. Over the, yeah.
Yeah.
I already got it.
Yeah. State streets.
We're talking about removing. Also be interesting to see. The city is actually. Yeah. So, how's that? So maybe that's.
I was spacing out there, so if you did the thought that this would be close to us. Or
But anyway,
that's-
nobody knows our, but don't think we're
It's really a free, you know.
But only Oregon's not close enough.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay, I think that, to me, what's
No, it's just you have to go, see, this car's going the other way.
Yeah.
especially with all of the parking. Because it seems like it would go to businesses. And they're all confusing if it were ever closed.
Kevin, can you split your vote?
I do.
Clever.
Oh, kind of circling out.
Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, these are really-
And then more checks from,
Go down, keep them well. Yeah, okay, so currently. They have the mustard gas that they close. The street or.
Far down Hubbard do they go? I know they go into Parliament. Is it just to the Hubbard Avenue Diner driveway?
Yes.
Do they go down by
For
Laundry?
my survey, it is, that's
Just
all
to the
the
park.
They don't go down the Laundry. It's just in this.
It's
Yeah,
in
they-
that, but there are several, like, that's what
think, you know,
they used to have like, Christmas or like the tree and other events that were on the street. that we
Yeah,
got
but that was
to.
when the tree
Now-
lighting was.
Now-
Yeah, now they moved
Now-
it down ever since we had.
Everything was down to.
Stone Horse, now that we have Stone Horse.
Yeah.
and- I'm all about this on this.
Well, there's a lot of, I mean, if the
I
library
mean,
is located there, if, you know, if there's like a library event or something,
Right.
fair, it'd be nice to have a space that people.
I know, and Terry supposed it down.
There are walk
Okay,
is
they're all
upstairs. And had this opportunity, and maybe a walk could be on Hubbard.
True, yeah.
The art walk, it's our big art fair. The last 2 years we've had it on the terrace. Like right in front of the brewery.
Where this streetscape is.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly.
Then you
But it-
would avoid the track, the traffic crossing the tracks too, right? From terrace to here. Isn't that an issue?
If we moved it, yeah,
Yeah.
I think it would be really nice. Yeah. This will open up a lot of opportunity. For sure. So in an ideal world, is this the? That's party land.
Yeah.
Great. Party alley, right?
Everyone have a chance to put their comments down? You can always come back to it, but maybe want to move on to the next session here. About 30 minutes.
Okay. All right,
Anything else?
so this one. This is a little bit more expensive than the first one, right? Because the idea with the new construction, you can remove buildings. In a sense, start over, right? Kind of gain a little bit more space. So that's why nothing is glued down, you can take buildings away. Now, all these program blocks, now that represents the 82,000 square feet for the library. This represents the area, about 35,000 for the City Hall, and then the senior center is about 32,000. So that's what these blocks represent. Now, I do have some green blocks here, and that's really not, you don't have to worry about that today. It's just to illustrate to you the community center program before the survey pages. So this is a little bit older, but this represents the size. If any of you were wondering, what would it look like to put a gymnasium downtown? This represents the height, about 18 to 20 feet of the gym. And that's one court, so you're beginning to put that down, takes up a lot of real estate. That's just there for reference, you don't have to worry about that. Our focus again is these three blocks and then the different permutations that you can have between taking away the senior center, starting over, taking away City Hall, start over. You can even begin to mix and match some of these. They don't have to be completely separate. Although I will say the senior center does need a certain level of autonomy for certain functions. But you can certainly mix and match City Hall, library, and all of those on either side. And then even think about the library, you know, of the three buildings, it's the newest. Certainly have some interior renovations, but again, don't let that hold you back. So really, this is your opportunity to dream.
When you say like, you know, this one is the more expensive option, what is like? Put that into context from like, all right, having to come in, gut and facelift these buildings versus bulldozing and just rebuilding.
We're working through that right now and getting some costing together. But it goes beyond that. It's also, what is the size of the building and the column spacing and how does that accommodate, like, for example, in City Hall, how does that accommodate growth and flexibility? So those are all things we have to think about too. And along with that, we're looking at the renovations on the outside of the building, the roof, the walls, the windows, and everything inside. And certainly on a renovation project like this, if you were going to do an extensive one, you take bathrooms out. This building's not accessible. So there's a cost associated with that too. So you add all that up and you look at this thing. versus dreaming big and starting over, right? That's part of these differentiated options. And there's certainly pros and cons, if you will, with each. But that's certainly something that we're looking for this committee for guidance. Did that answer your question?
Kind of, I'm just assuming like you've done,
No, and that's-
done like the research and you've seen the differential.
But that's certain, I mean, this is all on the table.
You can do that.
You certainly could.
Yeah, that's exactly what I want to see too.
Right. And then what do you do? And there's hybrids to that too.
And sorry, none of the current buildings have underground.
No,
Correct,
no.
okay.
And currently, I should say, this building, only half of it is accessible below grade by elevator and stairs. The set doesn't have.
Okay.
Because right below us, it's unexcavated.
Correct.
It's just dirt. And then there's open space. Well, that's another business.
And that's why we extended this context a little bit to show the relative heights of these buildings in the area. Because you're, you are going to start dealing with something here, so you can begin to get a sense of how that fits in. That community.
How, suppose the stage thing looks like, like obviously, elevators and everything, but we have to have you under the disability act, all buildings. Right, but as far as like, floors, is there like we currently have 2 floors right now with an elevator.
But I'm just saying, like, say that the stack right there is 4 floors, would that turn people off? If there's 4 stories? Senior center.
Accessible with.
It's all
elevators,
accessible,
yeah.
definitely all accessible.
Yeah, but the people know, well, if there's a, terrorist act or something like that, we're gonna have to be able to get the place cleaned up, quick. I don't know about 4 stories. But we have 2 or maybe 3. 3 stories. It's hard to tell, I mean, something like that is, I hate to make any commitments, I'd rather have some of the other seniors come.
Is this the largest space? This is the largest lot. Okay.
But if this is one of the things we talked about is origin just this. Could then happen if we have this then
Yeah, so I was gonna say, like, could like there be a parking structure and then this goes, these parking. This parking opens up for to build on.
Suppose you get a 4-story building.
Of the library and senior center together.
We had that option, when they noticed it, library because of the young kids. That was made very
Oh,
clear.
I don't mean in one building. I just want like close in vicinity, like
Yeah.
could be on the same lot, just because then they can get to the library from the senior center very easily.
we discussed it all, and we wrote this. Have we discussed it all? Yes, if you want more parking, great. And then, an area for, no, it's okay, workforce, workflow.
I think for right now. Correct me if I'm wrong. we're- see that public or
Correct.
3 thing.
But we're not thinking of saving any property for that.
You could save it, but what that becomes in the future.
Got it.
That's outside the scope of this master.
Yeah, I understand. Okay.
Then what would be really kind of cool is that all the parking subterranean, that this is all. And whatever.
I would agree.
Yeah,
So it sounds like to me that maybe it's question, like I think. For Ken's comment, like I think for the library and the senior center, we need to provide some on street. But. I don't know that should all be on street, like I tend to agree.
It's not a possibility, right? You know, leave it up to the individual, but.
Hybrid kind of makes sense to me.
The hybrid, or hybrid parking,
Mm.
some below, some high.
Like, I'm kind of thinking of, like, what if we have something like this where there's dedicated senior parking, this becomes a big interior atrium that connects the two streets together. City Hall is kind of attached to that. Can provide a, like, some green space buffer between like the houses. Maybe this is built with parking. And our library maybe shifts to be more like elongated so that in and out with the rural outdoor parking, you can see down somewhere to get the hill. But this starts to kind of straight. Do you have an idea how many parking spots you need for each building? Given the expected increase?
That will need to, much of the parking requirements down here, we need to work with the city and the zoning to identify them. The one that is identified in the zoning code is for city hall, and it's about one space for 500 square feet in area.
Almost
That's like-
well, I thought of this, you still have like an interior courtyard and that, like similar, like you'd have a separate space, right? Like the only difference would be.
Yeah.
And maybe you have another one that goes this way, right? Because you have their own dedicated parking just for the senior center, and maybe this.
But that ain't enough space over there just to.
No, and what's
Right,
gonna
it would
happen
be
is the
a-
restaurants are now gonna take that.
Well, I think to your point, like with those hatches or whatever, signs, hatches, like. You dictate it and enforce it, right, that these are for the senior center. Whoever do it. You get a ticket if they're using it correctly.
And yet all of that down there, you're gonna have this.
I don't know,
parking.
just a thought, or maybe it'd be nice to make this street front something, maybe that's not part of this immediate project, but maybe in the future that starts to build up.
Yeah, this is.
Could the library have a big, rooftop garden here?
Then we can't put the solar panels there.
Well, we can have them on some portion of it, but it would be really nice if that could be part of the entertainment options.
Kind of overlooking the.
The
Answer
interesting
your
thing
question.
about green roofs is that if you have a
That's
green
a
roof
bigger-
and put solar on the top of them, they provide enough cooling so that the panels don't overheat and they're actually more efficient. So if they're not, it's not a one or the other, it's actually better together. So.
So when the rages come down the street, we,
No,
designers get to be on the roof.
You said we are
Down
getting
in
it
Prague.
I said, you said we weren't getting any more.
Private
snow.
suites. You know,
Yeah, that's where it's going.
I have a
Servers,
question. Are you
cocktails.
thinking at all about you keep talking about turning this into a party street? What about the neighbors that are so close right there?
I think that they would be happy to have more updated vehicles
Slower vehicles.
and slower
Okay,
vehicles.
but parades and parties
I'm
and,
making a joke.
I know, but I mean, still, you keep talking about this being kind of a street that you're gonna turn or.
It's a
close.
community.
But we just spent a whole lot of money on this park down here. We spent a lot of money on this street and it's easily closed off. Where it seems like closing that street off is really, causing a lot of inconvenience to the neighbors down there and the noise.
I don't think, it seems like a lot of it's stuff that's already happening. It's just being moved back. Like the neighbors are, I don't think it's not like new parties are being created. I think it's just, you know, some of the events would be, have a better area to have them.
Well, why did we spend all this money down here then? If we're gonna have all. the
I mean, I think
events
that would
down
be used too.
This is very used.
Oh, I know it is, and it should be. I just, I guess I volunteer at the Historic Society. And it seems like we have got some wonderful neighbors that are around us there. And, it just doesn't seem like we need a lot of extra activity way down that street.
Well, I think there are pluses and minuses. If you could slow or prevent the traffic from going through there, the plaza, then it'd be quieter from that standpoint. But people might gather there until, 10 o'clock at night or so.
It's there, this here, and then open that up. Too, or is that gonna be way too crowded and too tall?
So everything is for storage, so that's what we could do without having. Either be zoned.
Yeah.
And that could go down a level, but this would assume that in addition to the whatever surface parking we can get, we go down at least one story.
Is this? Oops.
Mhm.
Does
Yeah,
it-
there's an access drive.
Does it work?
That is exactly what I was just saying, because in the senior center and library, I
Because then there's street parking and then there's church parking lot parking.
Yeah, I don't wanna move that.
No,
Why?
because it's really convenient for them to be able to go downtown.
Yeah, it's just farther to walk.
Yeah.
And it's been made clear in the meetings we've had that a lot of seniors just don't like children running up and down the halls.
I know, but they
We
also
shifted
like
this
to
way.
visit the restaurants down here
Yeah.
and the other.
Okay, what about that?
Put a library on that, and
We'll put the library down there, that's better.
I'm going over the line.
Oh, that's okay. It's the idea where.
But those two buildings aren't gonna be connected.
no,
Nope.
we'll keep the kids away.
Pardon?
We'll keep the kids
We'll
away.
make
Well,
scary
it's just the
signs for
issue
them to
that,
stay
you know,
out.
I went City Hall right in between, so there you go.
I don't mind that senior like kids.
Crosses over. You know, I mean, it's an issue of just mobility when you have elderly people walking, trying to get the door and some young kids keep running in. Right in front of them, you know, they're not well behaved at all. I've run into that quite a bit at the library. I seen another little lady that almost got knocked over. 'Cause kids
What
running
about
in.
that though? What if your parking is here and you're going in that way? And then you're not running into any library traffic?
Because there is something, even if your corridors don't interact with each other, like there's
Yeah.
not a way to interact, but as far as building systems, egress, there's things that paired together would be cheaper than having two separate buildings. Right, I would getting rid of this, you're not doubling on this wall.
Yeah.
There's a lot of efficiencies to trying to group.
Well, I'm just relating.
And
what
I just think it'd be nice
No,
if they
I-
want to get to the library.
It,
For the
keep
back.
that
Yeah.
functional,
Like there,
keep them
it's
separate,
very
but
easy
the
to get, I
building-
mean,
Go walkway.
yeah, a little walkway to get to the library, back to the senior center, to their parking,
And then.
and
there's
to
some
all of the
restaurants.
restaurants and stuff downtown.
Let's
And
just
now this
throw it-
opens up a lot.
And then.
Yeah.
So that's what defeated this last time around was $100 million for building all that once.
So in a scenario like this, then it would be more street parking across the street. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, there can be a lot of.
And there could be underground parking.
Mhm.
Correct, and I mean, I think. It's only currently at 4 stories, but there's probably, I mean. As long as you're not like, maybe not right here, but down here, there's probably in that.
Why don't we just move the city hall and the senior center around, and put the city hall between the senior center and the library, and the library. Yeah. What if you have a help desk at first floor for City Hall, where it's all of that? Do that.
How many stories are we talking on?
Right?
5+. I mean, in a scenario like that, the building would sort of squish out a little bit,
Sure,
but you could easily get to 5, 6 stories.
sure. And then what is all this supposed to be?
If we developed,
Developed
or be mixed use, you know, apartments, shops.
You're saying the
Workforce
strategy with
housing.
this is to free all this real estate up for future development.
Yeah, but where's the parking and you do for future development? The issue is the parking downtown. You can't be selling city property away and you don't have parking.
Well, in that instance, it would have to go underground.
Pardon?
In that instance, if we developed it, that parking would go underground.
And
Or even like the T-wall area that has ground parking, like it's just people don't know it's there.
For another.
so we're, yeah. So is that only 4 stories?
This is 4, this is 5.
It doesn't look that tense of this set step. It really doesn't.
It's kind of fun looking out there to see people
Yeah.
sitting.
That's part of the zoning ordinance.
Oh, is the T-wall across from Stonewall's? Kind of see those common areas.
Visual balance.
Your strategy here is you're trying to break apart that fence.
So when we have that, you could have boulevard and it's balance. Yeah. Balance.
Or likewise, the city center could occupy the space of the senior center, they could get the flip.
The fun thing about models like this is that you can get down and see what it's gonna look like within the streetscape, so you can see whether it's a canyon effect or if it's a more broad boulevard. It's fascinating. So I encourage people to, they're head down. For all stays.
First floor's all lights.
What's the way?
Yeah. Get protection from the rain. So, do we understand how much space, this indicates how much space in the future that these buildings are gonna need?
Yes, there is a plan for future growth in staff. And then, some of the areas that is built into these areas.
And how are those numbers arrived at?
Talking to city staff, what they have now,
Yeah,
and then having them try to identify future programs and needs that they'll need to accommodate and fill. So it's really kind of looking at where there are shortcomings right now for staffing in the area
yeah,
and then projecting forward. And we're working through
and
finalizing.
how far did you project forward?
It was really kind of hard. I think I would say probably, 10 years plus, and hopefully even more, with the staffing. But what we're doing with the staffing, if there's future workstations, we have what they're called hoteling stations. And it's not like an office or a cubicle. It's just like a work area, maybe 2x4, that could be planned in a space. So it can accommodate those people who might be working at home or just in the office a couple of days, you can kind of share spaces.
Interns that show up.
Correct. Okay, so I have one point. I don't want to bait you on. This is all really good discussion. What if you had to keep one building? What building would you keep?
You mean for as is?
Mhm.
Probably the newest one, the library.
Okay,
Yeah, that's the newest one, like I say, I really think from what I've seen so far, that what really needs to be replaced is the city hall. And not only for the, internal workings, but the expansion and everything else. I don't know how this gets filled up during a council meeting, but this is pretty small
It's
space.
pretty small, depending on the topic,
Yeah,
it can get very crowded.
and then you gotta look at security issues.
I was just gonna say that,
Somebody
and
goes,
that is
"Yeah."
another issue. We had one incident where I got really nervous when we have entrances from all over, which is good for exit in an
Mhm.
emergency, but Yeah, a guy literally walked behind us and, I think that stuff needs to be,
You have police on hand when you have those
we
meetings?
happened to have one in the room that day, but we were just lucky.
Mm.
Because it was a police topic. I mean,
That's another issue. We were concerned at the senior center is, you know, mobility and you never know when these crazies are gonna show up, the way things are. But, you know, like I say, the go to the buildings.
Well, we can think about all that now, which is great. This is something.
Absolutely.
So to your point, Paul, do you want to?
Well, I guess I was just kind of asking you the question, you know, if you were to keep a building, you know, how might these things then become commingled?
What if we change buildings? Say like move the senior center over to the library and build a new library?
That's certainly on the table. And then my question would be then where would you place the library in the city hall? You know, given the palette you have.
What's the space needs for the little pink blocks of the space needs in the future for the senior center?
The senior center is right around 32,000 in the future, and the city hall is about 20,
What's the current space of the library?
about 32.
Okay, so that's about what you're gonna need for the senior center, right?
Yeah. It cost some renovations, but then we got our parking next to us. We're off by ourselves. We can watch a train go past.
And you're right, okay, so you're.
The trains are quiet. They'll put out a quiet lunch.
I love that because then you also have parking next door at the church.
Yep.
You've taken yourself away from the restaurants. But
Yeah.
maybe you're okay with that.
Oh, that's just a thought, you know, that's.
All of these are just thoughts.
No, and they're really good thoughts.
It
And
makes
it's
sense.
interesting before, the buildings all kind of congregated in the middle. You had a really interesting urban quality between the two, right? And that doesn't make this idea any less advantageous.
Urban quality, you mean by making that extra?
Yeah, you had those,
Way,
right, yeah, the
four
buildings
doors,
got close to the street, you have like little green spaces in between the buildings, not to say you cannot. This,
See that where the senior center is next to the Raleigh House.
That's right.
Everything's old.
There you go.
an interesting trend that I'm seeing is, it seems like you're trying to preserve some open space for future development. Right.
Whatever that.
Right, but it looks, I mean, I'm not trying to.
Yeah.
Because it looks like you're okay with thinking about density and going up because the positives are,
Small footprint, I think this is.
So where is the library parking?
well, in a scenario like that, there could certainly be some street parking. This area really pretty much is off limits, for M&I because they just have their restricted parking. This you'd probably put parking below grade, but you certainly could have some parking here if the senior center is not taking everything. You could place some parking on the streets. Right.
This width lays out pretty well for where as far as like your 60-foot or 90-foot base, like this kind of pinch point, like it's not congruent, right? So it would, like as far as underground parking, that so it will be much more efficient.
Yeah, so in this scenario, that would stay.
Right, yeah, that would see.
Oh, yeah.
I also like, you know, just see all there too.
Oh, move them around.
Yeah, you can move it.
I like. City
Like,
Hall.
and have like a attractive city
Yes.
hall that like really
Yes.
looks good. Yeah, everyone wants to look at, a focal point.
In the same place.
Yes.
So the scenario. Kind of keep.
This is the senior center, right?
Yeah, I don't know how much renovation it take on the library. We'd have to get the kitchens and.
The current library is big enough to hold the projected seniors.
Yes.
We'd have to partition it off and have the room. I don't know, it's just a thought, you know, I mean, that's where you start to have to get the architects involved. It's feasible, I know.
I like to say anything is possible. It's just a
Well,
plan.
no,
As you
not
mentioned-
really, it's.
It is,
You
and
know.
that's part of the exercise of looking at the relative costs.
You know, as a taxpayer in Middleton, you know, I mean, I know we can borrow the money, but we're still gonna have to pay it back. Even though we don't have a high tax rate, if you look at the taxes, over 50% going to the high school right now. And the city has a very little drop in that. And the other issue that comes up now in the future is as the city expands, we're gonna have to have more infrastructure and street plowing, street maintenance, garbage pickup, so.
Is it essential that the library and city hall stay separate?
We want to be
Thinking
close to
about-
the mayor.
Move around.
We're- So we're thinking,
Move 'em.
you know, we're thinking that this parking is set, but what if we do it this way?
That's cool.
And you can
And then
build,
that reinforces this kind of
Oh,
I see.
streetscape
so
and then.
cool.
No, I got it.
So that.
so
that
that's
would take-
Sarah, you're saying.
That would
build-
take parking access off of Hubbard, but you would still have your parking back here.
Oh, I see, so you have so in a sense, it's taking that parking and keeping it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
rotating.
I like your landscape eye. It's just a cool overview.
Put your columnar horn views in.
Yes.
But your thought with this one is that city hall and library are commingled, right? There's a
It
connection
would be the
between
same
two.
building, yeah, and you know, do they share
Well, there is
an
efficiencies with
entry
that.
plaza or
Yes, right.
something right
Definitely.
here across from this parking that, you know, is. Maybe
Yeah,
there's, you
I
know,
like that
glassway
idea.
here.
That's a good point, because some of
Sharing
the,
that footprint.
yeah. Right, some of those common meeting spaces come over the library and they'd be, so, like, you could have a larger council chambers,
Oh, that'd be cool.
but then that could be for other
That
uses.
can be, yeah. Yeah, I like that. And for, like, we did geothermal, is it good to have the buildings connected? Is it easy?
Certainly, sure.
Any last minute changes? It's 5:25, 5 minutes left.
I like
do.
this one.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Oh, you do? Is there a consensus that? Do you all have to?
I didn't come in with any pre-recording implants.
No, I was just asking nobody. I was just asking nobody. I wasn't trying
No,
to bait you.
I love all of these.
We've
These are
got
so
room
great.
at the end for parking and how we give a little bit of buffer, housing.
This shifts down a little bit.
Right.
So is the staff parking here? Fine.
I like that.
The other thought was staff parking would always be.
Oh, sure.
Oh,
That saving the spots, you know, for the business thing.
And the seniors get to skip their steps.
Yeah. My brother-in-law gets his steps in on ours.
Yeah.
And then he
Or
stops.
Costco.
Yeah.
Or Costco.
it's kind of a trade-off, right? So we're trying to street edge this. Do we want to have any breaks for people to traverse? Because this is a large block out in cross traffic through it, like we want to create internal
I like that.
Pathways, or do we want to actually be able to access, like, because right now, none of the parking. You're doing it this, the parking, you won't get that access. On
go
Hubbard.
all the way around the block.
You have to go around the blocks to get to it.
Oh,
I mean, we could have a separation, maybe separating the community campus from the
That's cool.
adjacent businesses. To have a
Love that.
little bit of pass through there, maybe.
Might be elevating that, so possibly.
Right, at the second and third floor, third, or all the upper floors. We want, maybe there's a atrium between the two, kind of separated. Just thoughts.
I was getting excited about this.
Not in my mind.
Yeah. Who wants to talk about phasing?
We dream now and then we'll work on the things.
It's great.
Well, our team will be busy tonight and tomorrow morning, and then when we meet at noon tomorrow, we'll have some cool stuff to show you.
This was great exercise. Like I like the.
Yeah. This
Oh,
is
good.
good.
Yeah.
It's-
I'm glad that
It makes it real. Nice.
Are there any thoughts? I know kind of last go round, there was concerns that the residents, there's more to have to go by here.
You don't like my idea of ripping down the row house?
Yeah.
Just in general, right, like, somebody's growing in the backyard and having something
Next to the row.
That's a really good point, and I think that if you, that's part of why I asked the question, right? So one strategy certainly is to build developer, and you're removing all your
This thing is low income.
all your building.
Those two are.
This is the resident.
And he down.
And. Of course.
So there's
City Hall over
issues
here.
with both, and I
Yeah,
think it's just.
it's just. devil's
Yeah.
advocate, like,
I try to run
Maybe
stuff
stuff
off
up
of
higher.
Right.
zero down there.
because we looked at.
But again,
that.
if it fits within the zoning code,
But it depends on the design and what.
it fits within the zoning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I know what they, but.
But I think there's
it's
just a-
Pretty nice building.
Yeah.
Just because you can't.
I don't know why they need to.
It's just my.
They could keep that one.
Well.
Is this like?
That's right here. This is one of those-
That's what it
Yeah,
is.
nice and small.
Building empires. No.
Yeah. And then there was a little.
I was supposed to be able to leave at 5:30. At 5:30.
Yeah.
Once like these,
And then this is a historical.
Yeah, right.
just.
I've missed.
So they don't
every
want us.
10 hour, 2 days in a row. I'm getting jitters.
Thanks, everyone.
That would be the-
Thank you for coming, thanks for your
So
input.
cool.
I mean.
Yes.
So you want to make it at noon tomorrow?
Yeah.
Where these as a pop.
Back here, right?
Yep.
Did you have your knee replaced?
You too.
Working on.
Yeah.
Almost.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yes.
All right, thank you. With that, I will close the meeting at 5:30.
It's noon tomorrow.
See you all tomorrow. I don't remember.
Are we here?
Abby, is it, or did she leave?
Oh.
Nate, is it noon tomorrow here?
Yeah, noon to 1:30.
In
That would be
here?
the next.
I think it's the same spot.
Okay.
If it's not, it's just around the corner, so no biggie. I am gonna have to be.
Hopefully. it'll be-
Okay, yeah.